Thanks for joining me today. Today I'm going to be telling you a story about a friend who let someone in her house to visit, and that friend brought something and left it there, and it tormented the family for a while. And this is going to be a two-part story. So this first video is going to be just about my one friend's house, and the second story leads right into that person who brought something to her house. So grab a snack, and before we start, I want to just remind you to like, subscribe, and if you can hit that notification button so you'll know when I upload a video. And let's begin. So my friend was telling me she just moved into this place from an apartment and bedrooms, and she had a backyard. She was so happy, and it was nice. She loved it. And not too long after that, I would say a couple of months later, she began to tell me that her children were scared to sleep separated. So her house, the kids were sleeping together, and she had her baby. She had 4 kids, and she had a really small baby. He was under 2. And he would sleep with her and her husband at the end of the hallway, and then at the opposite end was her daughter's room. She had 2 daughters, an older one and a younger one, but she had a son also that was second born, and they would all pile up on a tiny little twin bed. So the kids were scared. So she asked me to come over, and I left my kids at my house with my husband because I just wanted to get a feel for it first and not have to worry about my kids under my feet. So I went to her house, and like I said, her kids were scared. She was also noticing that her phone batteries were not lasting. She couldn't keep them charged. Things would die off. Light bulbs would just die off also right away. Things just wouldn't last that were electrical. So she wanted me to come check it out. So this was the layout of the house. So when I walk in to the house, it's a very long hallway. You can't see a living room, you can't see a kitchen, nothing. So at the end of the hallway is a wall. So there's 2 doors, one to the left immediately and one to the right when you first walk in. This one of them was the garage, the other one was a door to her restroom, which had 2 doors. So we walk straight into the hallway, and at the end, if you make a left, there's a living room with a sliding door that goes out. And then if you go to the right, it's her dining room kitchen that has another sliding door to go out in the back. And then there's a hallway to all the rest of the bedrooms on that one side. So I did a walkthrough. So what I do is I just kind of walk through the house, and I get a feel for it, and I just have my senses on and open, and I just walk through. And let me say that she was not a very good housekeeper. So that's kind of what these things like, these dark spirits, because they can hide in a lot of things, especially if you're a messy housekeeper. So in her living room, she had very sparse furniture, not a lot of things on the wall, but she had a huge pile of toys. And then in the garage, she had about 2 or 3 massive piles of clothes. And I guess she liked clothes. She had clothes in the boys' room, which was the middle bedroom. And the girls had lots of toys and clothes piled up in their closet. So everything was piled up, lots of clothes, lots of toys, that kind of a thing. So that's good to know for later. So anyway, so I walked through the house, and I definitely made sure that I was, opening my senses, seeing what I felt. I was watching the activity of the children too. It's really important to pay attention to pets and children, young kids. I'm really, it always confirms what I'm feeling, what I'm thinking. So I was walking through the house, and I noticed that my phone was also dying as soon as I got in, and it was fully charged. So I did notice as I walked through certain spots, I did feel a little uneasy, and it was mostly by those piles of toys and the clothes in the garage and things like that. She took me through the garage. So then I walked through the children's room, the girls' room, and when you go into that hallway from the kitchen, it was on the left-hand side, And it was just like a day bed. It was a cute day bed, a few little knickknacks of toys, and their closet to the right. And so I got an okay feeling in there. I didn't feel anything bad. I just knew that it was probably really congested, really dirty, in the sense that there was too many things. But I walked through that one fine. When I went to the middle room is when I noticed that, and all the windows were open in the house too, by the way. The middle room had a huge window. As soon as you walk in, you face a huge window. And to the left of that window was a closet. So she had all the baby clothes in there. So, and her son's clothes. Her son was probably about 5. The baby was about 1.5. So she said this was the boys' room, but the boys never slept there because I did see a mattress on the floor and some crib railings that she never put the crib together because the baby nobody wanted to go in there. It had some toys in the corner, but they would just grab what they had to grab and walk out of there. And they usually did it when she would be with them. They would ask her if she'd go with them to get a toy. So when I walked into that room was very compressed air, very tight feeling. It was very warm in there, even though it was a nice windy day. The house had all their windows open, but this one room just wasn't getting air. So it was just a very tight feeling in there. So I didn't feel anything, but I knew that there was something strange happening because, like I said, there's no air movement. That's usually for me, and at the time I didn't know it that well because I hadn't dealt with something like that. But I usually know now that it's something that's not good. It's not a good feeling. So it's such a big spirit. It's such a big entity that it's taking up that whole space, and it's like a compressed air. So we walked in there, and I walked further down the hallway, and I walked into her room. And she had told me that her baby and her kids would not walk into that room unless she was with them. So as we stood in there, her kids were off running around doing other things. So we walked in there, and I kind of just stood, like I said, she didn't decorate. She just had a bed and a dresser, and not even curtains. She just had blinds and basic stuff, nothing on the walls, nothing throughout her house. So as you're standing there, there's her bed to the left and a closet, and across from that closet directly across was the big window to the front of the house. So across from her bed was a small walk-in closet, and then a little vanity area with a mini closet right behind that. And so this little vanity just had a sink and a big mirror so she could do her makeup. Then the door to the shower and the bathroom. That was the one where the entrance that had another door, so that was her bathroom. So as I'm standing there, I didn't want to see anything yet, so I just wanted to do a walk through the house and just see what I felt. So as I'm standing in there, she sort of described what usually happens. She just says that she would wake up at night and occasionally look like didn't know why she would be waking up, things like that. And usually I told you before that usually means there's something in there with you and it's waking you up. So she had a little bit of some psychic ability here and there. She did have some of that. She just didn't, strengthen it or anything like that. So usually if I were to, when she would say something, I didn't start to notice, I would feel that as well. So in that vanity area, she had turned the light on and we were talking, and she had her back to the sink. And it's just an open one. It didn't have a door to go to, an open vanity area. And we're standing there talking, and then she noticed that her baby was walking in, and he stood at the threshold of the door, and the door was open. So we stopped. I told her to stop talking, and I looked at him, because I wanted to see what he was going to do. And the child just stood there like he was getting a feel for the room. And he takes a step, an apprehensive step, but he walks in and starts to look around like, where is it at? like, where did it go? Kind of a look on his face. I'm not kidding. He was a baby, but he had that look on his face, like, he was looking around. And funny thing is when he walked in, his posture changed, and he started to walk a little bit, with some confidence, and he was like, kind of like, you guys don't belong here, kind of a thing. He was doing that, and we were kind of like laughing about it, but I did explain to her, when we come in, you're the parent of this house, you're the woman of the house. So a lot of times those things will hide, or if they know that someone's there looking for them, that kind of a thing, they tend to hide a little bit. So I was going in, like I said, with my senses on, and I usually I did feel that there was a presence, but it wasn't nearby, like in front of me. So little boy got a little brave, and he walked in, and it was pretty cool to see that. So we took the kids. I told her I wanted to take the kids to the kitchen. She wanted to give them a snack, and I go, okay, let's take a little break. And while she was doing that, I was walking through the living room, getting a sense for that, getting in the hallway, going to the garage, that kind of a thing. I didn't want to go into that garage too. That garage felt really, didn't feel good. So I just closed the door on that one. And when I went back, the kids were having their snacks, that kind of a thing. So we chatted for a little bit, and once the kids were done, I just said, hey, would you guys do me a favor? So the 3 older kids obviously were the ones that were going to be able to draw something, The oldest one was my son's age, and I want to say she was about maybe like 8 or 9. And then the next son was probably about 6, 7. And then the sister after that she was about 5, 4, something like that. So I told them to draw me what they saw in the house, and I grabbed a paper, and I was going to draw what I saw. And so we all sat around, we spread ourselves out so we wouldn't see each other's pictures. And I just said, draw it as best as you can, and what's the thing that stands out to you? Are they really tall? Are they really short? Are they skinny? Do they have big eyes? Things like that. Draw the main things that that would remind you of them. So we all did our drawings, and they bring me their papers, and the mom's standing there right behind me, and their picture matched my picture. Even though they were younger than me and they were using crayons, it was 3 entities. These have never walked the earth, and that's when I started to understand at that particular time when I dealt with this, that there are some things that are just spirits that, were just never crossed over. But I immediately understood it from there. I just said, no, these have never walked the earth as a human. They also don't move their mouth. That was another thing too. That's another way of me knowing as well. But so the parent was a little shook, and the kids were kind of like, they looked at me and they're like, oh, you can see it too. My mom and daddy don't see it. And I just said, yeah, no, I see it. But I was trying to let the kids know that, they had nothing to fear, that they were kids, children of God, and they were protected, and they had angels with them, so they could always ask God to have their angels stand next to them so they can, not be scared. So what the drawings look like is, there was a very large one that was probably about 8 feet tall. Then there was one about my height, about 5'4". And then there was a small one, probably maybe 1 to 2 feet, really, really small thing, which was weird. So I walked through the house again, this time with wanting to see what it is I would see. So in the garage, I did see the big one, the 8-foot one. So the 8-foot one looked like this. So it reminded me of that hairy animal from Where the Wild Things Are. I've never read the book, never saw the movie, but I remember seeing the previews to it on the covers of the books as well. And it did have horns at the top. It was very just hairy, just looked like a beast. And the next one that was my size was dressed in very, drab clothing. I would just say basic, looked kind of like, just a beige clothing, kind of like ripped at the bottom, and it was very skinny. It looked like this. So kind of like a Jack Skellington kind of a thing, but my size. And it had a really oversized head. It really had an oversized head. And the little one looked like this. And it reminded me of, the Pac-Man video game, the ghosts at the bottom when they would run. It was just fluttery at the bottom of their ghost suit or dress, whatever. It was very wavy. It was a wavy little feeling. I don't know how else to describe it, but so as it would fly, it would have that waviness. It was strange. It just was like a white glob. Kind of reminded me of, just like a little something flying, small, but had like a little sheet over it because of the waviness of the bottom. So that one was in her restroom, and once I went into her room, I could see it try to leave me, so it went through the wall into her shower. And the Jack Skellington type of creature was standing where she had said when she opened her eyes, it was in that vanity area, right in that corner of the vanity area between the door and the vanity area. So that one was pretty intense to look at because it was like a very off-white, dirty white head, big round head. The eyes were overly large, but they were no eyeballs. It was just black scratch, as if you probably grabbed like, charcoal or burnt wood, how it leaves that dry black mark. It looked like just scribbles because the outside was not a crisp circle. It was just outside of it as well, like just a really bad scratchy coloring job. And it just had a little straight mouth, and I don't know if I can say it was a skeleton face because it just didn't look like a human skeleton. And the body didn't really look like much to me either. It looked like maybe it could have been like a plain beige, dirty clay body, like maybe out of clay, because it just didn't have any muscle to it. It was just like a bony, scary. I mean, that sounds so scary. It sounds so scary now that I talk about it. I really hate things that are overly skinny or have overly big eyes. Even like long fingers, like I can't do that. So it's starting to sound scary right now. Okay, so she allowed me to start to clean her house a little bit, but before I started, she wanted me to start right away. But I said, hey, wait, let me look into this garage. And she said, oh, well, for right now, I'm gonna try and put my son down for a nap on the bed across from me. She says, go, you can just talk to me right now. So as I was talking, I opened up the closet and I saw that she had like a little dresser as soon as you walk into the left, and then it was just a little small U-shaped closet. And she had a lot of stuff in there from the bottom to the top. And I stood there and I had my back to this closet while the door was open, and I was chatting with her, and I started noticing that the very right corner, like back part of my head, it doesn't have a corner, but the back part of my head was feeling pain. Not directly in the middle, but just more to this side on the right. So I turned around after she was talking to me and I thought, I just thought, why does my head hurt? Like, is there something right behind me? So she kept talking to me, and then I couldn't take it anymore. So I just turned around after a few minutes and I'm like, my head really, really hurts right now. So I stepped in backwards and I got into the closet because I thought I had to find out what it was. And as I stood in there and I leaned up against the clothing that was in there, I told her I was feeling something in there. So as I leaned up against the clothing, now I was, the board where the the clothes hangs was right above me. And so I felt the pain now towards the top of my head, but on the right side. So when I looked up, it was a jewelry box. This little, they're like a foot high, and they've got like little drawers in the middle, and then they have like swinging doors to hang necklaces, that kind of a thing. So I said, what's in there? Can I look in there? And she's like, yeah, go ahead. It's just my jewelry. And so I take it down and I bring it into the bed, the edge of the bed. And so I look in there and I'm kind of like, okay, there's lots of jewelry. Like her mom, her aunts, her grandma had given her lots of jewelry. So she had gold, a lot of gold. And so I had said it in one of my last videos that things that are metal, like a precious metal, can pick up the tainted spirits, the negative feelings inside the house or wherever you're at. You can pick it up. So I just realized, you know what, we're going to have to test your jewelry. We're going to have to see if it's been tainted. So she had never done it before, so I was showing her how to do it. And I had been taught by a professional psychic how to do that. And so what you do is you get, I'm grabbing a pen, but let's just say this is like a ring, a gold ring. And you put it over your heart, like on your skin, and you just take a deep breath from that area. Like you're inhaling the essence of that item. So when you take a deep breath, you imagine the essence is coming into your heart, okay? I just like to imagine like a white smoke, a white light, something. So as I took my deep breath, I could feel my heart flutter. So I could feel like it wants to skip a beat, and it feels kind of like fluttery. And the psychic lady had told me that there's something on that jewelry, there's something, that's how you can tell. So I showed her how to do it. I had her help me because she had a lot of jewelry, and there was some things that just didn't have anything. You could not pretend or think that you did feel anything. So, we knew what had it and what didn't. So we set aside the jewelry that did have that feeling on it. And I just said, look, you're going to have to get rid of this jewelry. And she was like, oh, well, I can't part with that because my aunt gave me that. And what if she sees me and wants to see me wearing it? Or my mom gave me that, so I have sentimental value, blah, blah, blah. So I said, okay, well, I can't force her, so I'm just going to let her keep it. But I said, let's keep it away from the rest of the jewelry. So she didn't have anything else. She didn't have a plastic bag, a plastic baggie, or a trash bag. She didn't have anything. So I said, okay, we're going to put it in. You have an old sock. So she found an old sock, and I tied it in a knot, and we took it to the garage, and we took it to the very far end. If you stand at that door at the entrance where the front door is, if you look diagonally to the right, there was another door that went to the backyard, and her washers were on that side. Well, there happened to be a nail on that hook. So I told her, we're going to hang it here. And I sprayed that garage door with holy water around the door so nothing could come back inside. So as I was closing the door to the garage inside the house, I looked back and I saw that big hairy creature standing in front of the doorway, just looking at me, not saying a thing, not threatening me, nothing like that, but just staring, just a blank face. It was weird. And I closed the door on that one. And so I sprayed the house. I went and sprayed, and I just made sure that I was saying the Our Father through everything. She didn't want to get rid of any toys. She didn't want to get rid of any clothes. And, that was her prerogative. So the only thing I can say was, hey, this is not going to last very long then. It's just going to, trap it in certain areas, but it's still going to be there. So she was okay with that. So I did a quick, spraying of the place, and I didn't do the attic. So that should always be like the first place you do, so they don't run to the attic like you're gonna when you start spraying. So I didn't do it. I wasn't gonna go that heavy if she was not gonna go and clean up and throw things out. So I was just doing it for the kids because they were just being tormented. The kids would wake up in the middle of the night and those 3 creatures would be standing beside them in the bed. And they would all just close their eyes and sleep on their stomachs and just hug each other. So it was, I did it for the kids. So I sprayed the rooms. I could not, the middle room where the boys were supposed to be sleeping with that tight air, compressed air, I just didn't do anything. I didn't clear it. It was just that one's just, it was too much. We needed something, we needed the big guns for that one. But I just sprayed the doorways and I made sure nothing could come out of there. And same thing with the girls' room. I worked my way towards the door and did the best I could with that closet. And I sprayed it. So I was like, okay, well, I did have a fresh feeling, and I went outside with the kids. I go, let's go outside and let's like re-energize ourselves. You should be outside with nature, listening to the trees, the wind, things like that, water if you can, whatever it is that calms you. With nature, you should always, that's like a good way to like cleanse yourself. So I made sure that let me make sure my notes. I just made sure that I really cleansed it as best I could to keep them trapped in certain corners or things like that, because it was not going to be cleared out. So she had told me that, I told her, hey, you moved into this house, like, didn't you feel anything? Because you have this little bit of psychic ability. She said, it was fine when I moved in. I didn't feel anything. I felt great. She said, but I did have a friend come over and visit me. And she does have a lot of problems. And that's all she said to me. And I thought, oh, wow, okay, well, maybe if she's got problems, maybe she's got something following her, maybe that kind of thing. Maybe she dropped something off. She's like, yeah, it was kind of a weird visit. And I thought, okay, well, I left it at that. So, flash forward, that's for part 2, the rest of that. But a couple weeks, I waited about a week and I just let them all settle in and that kind of a thing. And heck, I even sprayed the whole family outside, by the way, too, before we went back inside. I got in contact with her, and I just, about a week later, and I just said, well, how's the house? How's it going? She said, well, the kids are actually sleeping really well. She says they're happier, and I don't wake up in the middle of the night. I don't have any problems or issues where I'm feeling like something's staring at me, nothing like that. But she did say, I definitely feel like it's clearer air. Like I do have a lighter feeling. I thought, okay, great. She said, but the kids are saying that those things are now standing outside their door. All 3 of them are standing there just staring at them at night. She says, so they make me close the door. So it does work. Holy water does work. I did spray the whole perimeter of the door and the bottom, and I said, nothing shall pass that is not good. And yeah, so that one worked. But, at some point when they would leave the house, they went shopping one day, and the little girl goes, the oldest one says, Mom, those 3 things that are at our house? She's like, yeah. She was like, well, they're with us right now. And she says, but the weird thing is they don't look like creatures anymore. They now look like kids. So yeah, these kids, scared me. So, that tells me right there, these are nothing that has ever walked there. These were never human. These things are trying to adapt to not scare the kids so they can stay at this house. Like this is something darker. This was way something deeper. Maybe a demon, maybe something that was like a shape-shifty kind of a demon, a dark spirit. Maybe it's a jinn, possibly. Definitely. And for each kid, that spirit, they shrunk themselves down to be the same height of those kids. So something interesting. So that concludes this video, and I am going to continue this video on my next part, because from there I'm going to talk about the lady that actually visited her, that brought the dark spirits there at that time. So if you liked what you heard today, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, and please tap that notification bell so you can get notified when I do upload a video again. So thanks for joining me today, guys. I really appreciate it. Thanks for the support. Bye. Take care.